Hey guys, my name's Hope. Welcome to Rooted Recovery. You may have noticed the name change. I apologize. I know it's very early on, so names are easy to get caught up with. But welcome back. I appreciate you stopping in for this video. I appreciate anyone who watched last week's and the week's prior videos. Like I said, this is just the very beginning. We got a lot of good stuff coming. Spring is here, so I'm going to keep on planting and hopefully get out in the garden a little bit more as the days warm up here. Right now we're still sitting, we're about 50 degrees today, so not terrible, but still working on upping those temperatures before we really get out there. But let's get into the scripture today. I have a really good one for you guys. We are in 1 Corinthians today, 1 Corinthians 10:13 in the New Living Translation. So it reads, "The temptations in your life are no different from what others experience, and God is faithful. He will not allow the temptation to be more than you can stand. When you are tempted, he will show you a way out so that you can endure." So this verse, like when I first read it, I was like, oh, wow, it's got a lot of depth to it in a lot of different ways. And we're going to kind of do a deep dive here and look through each and every one of those so that we have a better understanding of what exactly is being said here and the weight of it. So first off, temptations. Temptations come in a ton of different forms. At least for me, I struggled with alcohol and cocaine addiction for about 7 years, but it can come in the form of food, it can come in the form of sex, it can come in the form of relationships, it can come in many, many, many forms. Temptations are, I'd like to think, incredibly derived from the devil. At least biblically, that is pretty correct. The devil kind of puts these things in our lives to take us further from the Lord. So when we are tempted, we want to give into something that we know is not necessarily good for us or good for our growth, or something that God has recommended against. There are lots of passages in the scripture in reference to overindulgence when it comes to alcohol, when it comes to food, gluttony, things of that nature. And it's pretty interesting to see how far back those things go and where we've come. It's such an epidemic dealing with these different temptations and excess and addiction in itself. But at the end of that, the root of all of that is primarily the devil. Going into the next part of the verse here, no different from what others experience. So this is not brand new. Your struggle is not original. Somebody else has gone through it. Thousands of other people, millions of other people have gone through it. And that's what makes this community so beautiful, is you can find those people in your life in the most unsuspecting ways, and they can ultimately lead you further in your faith, or lead you away from those temptations, or reason with them and find out ways that they were able to take themselves out of that struggle. So knowing that this is not brand new, your struggle has been seen before, at least it's been seen by God, maybe not by you, but it will eventually be seen by you. And fellowship is a huge part of that. The next part is God is faithful. So in dealing with temptation, addiction, and dealing with these really deep-rooted issues in your life, whether that be when you're in it currently or when you pull away from it finally, you're going to have fallout somewhere. You're going to have familial fallout. You're going to have friends that are going to leave you, or friends that are no longer going to hang out with you just because you don't delve into and indulge in those things that you're tempted by. People live different lifestyles, and that's totally fine. That's the beautiful part about living, is that we're all unique, and we like to celebrate in different ways. We like to, hang out on a day off in different ways. We like to adventure different ways, and it can be beautiful. However, it can be very destructive if gone down the wrong path, right? So it's okay to have those people leave your circle. Your circle is going to get small. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. From my personal experience anyways, I didn't necessarily lose a lot of friends, or family for that matter. Mine was very supportive. However, I do see how removing yourself from those situations where you're put in front of that temptation in particular can put some distance between you and others that you may have had great relationships with, or you may have been super tight with. And amongst all of those opportunities and relationships that may have faded or may have changed amidst your addiction or amidst your sobriety journey, God's love for you and God's care for you will never cease. And that is a beautiful thing. The next part is, He will not allow the temptation to be more than you can stand. So temptations are going to be there no matter what, no matter what your belief is, what your conviction is, where you're currently at in your life. It's always going to exist. I think that's the devil's pull. Like, he wants to lure you back in and do what he can to like keep you in that sad, sorry spot. But it's our job, our task to lean more into the word and lean more into what God is telling us to do, as opposed to what our flesh wants. Without a relationship with God, we'll be hard-pressed to defeat this affliction on our own. It is not by our own doing that we overcome our addictions. It is by God's constant guiding hand. Once you get that one hit, once you get that one drink, for some of us, it's hard to stop. It's not always a choice that we can make. It's a feeling that we need to keep consuming. And that's a dangerous, dangerous path to be on. But the great part is, if you're seeking God, He's not going to allow that to overtake you. Ultimately, like, His pull on your life has to be greater of that than the temptation, than your addiction, in order to recover properly. And then the final part of this verse is, He will show you a way out so that you can endure. Our way out is not always going to be pretty. Mine sure as hell wasn't. My way out was, I got arrested, and, you know, at the time I thought that was the end of the world. I was like, you know, like, why would I be put through this? Why God, you know, why me, right? And I had many chances before that to kind of like get my shit together. I like to call it the nudge, right? Like, God gives us nudges. And if you've never experienced that, I'm sure you have. You might just not be relating it to that. However, it's just an undeniable feeling that you get, that you were placed in a certain situation, scenario, you went through something in order to realize that that's not the path you need to be taking. I should have, you know, taken his heat and stopped while I still could. But instead it took me to getting arrested and owing a ton of legal fees and all these different things I had to go through. But ultimately, like, that's something I can endure. But the point being, you're going to have to go through hard things. You're going to have to do hard things. It's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows, particularly when you're living that lifestyle. But ultimately, it's those nudges. It's that thing that you can bounce back from in order to move on and in order to seek Him and do better for yourself. The temptation was there. There was still alcohol in my house. Like, I was still, you know, seeing friends that were drinking at the time, and those things were there. And I'd love to tell people, like, oh no, I didn't go to AA, or I didn't lean on, you know, any services to pull me out of this. I kind of just did it on my own. No. That was entirely God-willed. Like, looking back on it, I shouldn't have been able to do that. Granted, I had an amazing support system in my family and my friends. Everyone was rooting for me in that aspect. And that was really beautiful to be a part of that. And I know a lot of people don't have that. So just know, like, even if you don't have that support system, not only your will is going to be able to accomplish this, you're going to have to lean into God, praying, being with other like-minded individuals, having a fellowship, having something that you can cling to in those times of temptation. But God gives us that opportunity to escape that path and get on a better one towards a better future.
I just returned from our Good Friday service at church. All this to say, really, that when I'm saying these things, I'm speaking to those of you who are in recovery or are addicts in a previous life. That's no longer who you are anymore. And the reason that we are able to leave that behind us is because Jesus died for us on the cross. He took on all of that burden, all of that sin, all of that weight the guilt, the shame that we were holding on to, and took that with him when he passed away. God sacrificed his only son so that we could remove ourselves from the despair, and move on and become our true selves, those who are worthy of love, worthy of patience, worthy of kindness, who seek to live out in truth and wisdom and want to know more and get more out of this life. So if that's who you are, I implore you to come visit me weekly, so we can talk a little bit about what that looks like, moving away from who we previously were. You were once an addict, and that's no longer who you are. You don't have to take on that identity any longer. You can remove yourself from it. Does that mean go out and get a drink and it's not going to be the same? No, not necessarily, especially for the majority of us. But what it means is spiritually, that's not who you are anymore. And that is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. Good Friday is a great day of reflection. It's a very sad day, but it can also be a triumphant day. And feeling all those emotions after today's service, but I think the biggest one that stuck out for me was just this immense appreciation for Jesus and what he did for us, and the ultimate sacrifice that he made. He felt it all, man. I mean, he felt what it was like to be a human and the terror that some people live in each and every day, or, you know, he was able to witness all those things that humanized him and ultimately humanized God so that we could see his love for us.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming along for this little deep dive that we did today. Let me know down in the comments if you've been through something that was kind of like a nudge or God's way of like shifting your thinking, or looking back on it, at least if you saw it that way. Or if you're going through active addiction right now and need some resources or need some help. I have found my purpose, and it was not entirely by my own will. God definitely had his hand on me that entire way, and I kind of just want to share that with the world and have you guys know that there's a will, there's a way. You just have to pursue it and not just entirely lean in, but look upward. So today we're going to be planting some beets and carrots and checking on what's going on in the greenhouse. Let's get into it. Good afternoon, everybody. It is March 25th, 2026. I am out here, it's currently 70 degrees, but I'm going to be planting some beets and carrots. I have never grown beets or carrots before, so we're going to just get these in the ground and see what happens. I know these are cool weather farers, so they should be able to survive up through our frost date. Well, we shall see. God willing, right? All right. So the carrots like a little bit more sun, so I'm going to put them on this side, and then the beets like a little bit more shade and cooler, so I'm going to put them over here. I'm going to put down some worm compost here, just a little bit. So these are surface sowers, so we're just going to pretty much put them over the top of the soil, sprinkle a little bit over the top, but nothing crazy, and then water them in. And then beets, we do got to dig a little bit of a cavern for them to go into, not quite deep though, 1/2 inch, and they got to be 4 to 6 inches apart. Can weed them out, or thin them out, I suppose. And they don't like a lot of large material in with them, so do my best to clean this area up a little bit. And I understand there might be some below. Totally get that. I'm gonna put 2 per trench here. This is just a cute little notebook my mom got me on Amazon. I will link that in my Amazon storefront. But you leave the plant name, the date you planted it, germination date, things like that. Time to check out how our garlic is doing. You saw it last time. And this is our progress a week later, so pretty significant growth here. And here are our lettuce seedlings a few days after, as well as our microgreens a few days after. Here is our lettuce about 2 weeks after planting. You can obviously see why we use the wholesale seed tray because it gets crisscrossed. And here are our microgreens about 6 days after planting. Pretty incredible, very tasty in salads. Yeah, we snipped them and ate them right after. Here is our broccoli about a week after. We had no peppers yet at this point. And here are our peppers about 2 weeks in, so looking pretty strong. Broccoli's looking a little stringy, but we can just hope for the best at this point. I also got a heat mat for my birthday to go underneath the peppers to help them grow nice, big, and strong.
Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I had a really great time spending a little moment in 1 Corinthians and going over some of my addiction as well as some of the affliction that many suffer from today. Hope you learned something new today, whether that be about God, Jesus, or yourself. Please remember to leave the nudge or what you consider to be a nudge in your life in the comments. I'd love to read through those. And don't forget, I'm also going to leave the link in the bio for the World Vision fundraiser that we are participating in to run the Chicago Marathon and raise money for clean water to less fortunate countries. Well, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and God bless you all.